Few watches are as legendary as the Rolex Submariner. It's the watch that went from being a tool for divers to the ultimate symbol of status and style. But how did it become the icon that we all know today? In this video, we'll take a deep dive into the evolution of the Rolex Submariner, from its birth in 1953 to the cutting-edge models of today. So if you love horology and everything else watches, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's dive in. Let's start with the birth of the Rolex Submariner. Rolex introduced the Submariner in 1953 as a professional dive watch built for function over fashion. And during this time, it has a few key models and milestones during the years 1953 to 1959. Take, for example, the very first model, reference 6204. This came out in 1953. It was the very first Submariner. It had a 100-meter dive resistance, a rotating bezel, and no crown guards, a design that would later evolve. Then came reference number 6205 in 1954. Slight dial refinements happened on this one, but still no Submariner text on the dial that we all know today. In 1955-59, there was reference 6538. The famous James Bond Submariner, worn by Sean Connery in Dr. No in 1962. The water resistance increased on this model to 200 meters. And a little fun fact for you guys, the 6538 is nicknamed the Big Crown because of its oversized, crown guard-free design. The Submariner gains identity, and by the 1960s, the Submariner was becoming more refined and gaining features that defined it. The key models and milestones of the years 1960s to the 1970s is as follows. Reference 5512 from the years 1959 to 1980 was the first to introduce the crown guards, giving the watch extra protection. And reference 5513 in 1962 to 89 was the longest running Submariner reference, beloved by many collectors today. And then, of course, the 1680 from 69 to 79 was the first Submariner with a date function, and some early models had the rare red Submariner text, which is highly collectible and rare today. And this kind of symbolized an interesting shift with Rolex. And Rolex was transitioning, of course, the Submariner from a pure tool dive watch to a luxury sports watch, a shift that would only accelerate in the coming decades. The 1980s brought big changes for Rolex and the Submariner, making it more of a luxury statement while still maintaining the dive watch DNA. And during this time, the 1980s through the 2010s, it had a few key models and milestones that were brought to the Rolex Submariner. I'm going to go over them now with you. Reference 16800, so 79 through 88, was the first sapphire crystal put on the Rolex Submariner, an upgrade from acrylic, making it much more scratch resistant. Then came reference 16803 in 1983. The first two-tone Submariner, signaling Rolex's shift into luxury sports watches. This was a huge step for Rolex, shifting them into, of course, the 16610, the 88 through 2010, the introduction of the 904L stainless steel, which is way more corrosion resistant than most standardized stainless steels in the industry. A 904L is still the stainless that they use on modern Rolexes today. This was the biggest leap for Rolex. He started positioning the Submariner as a lifestyle luxury sports watch, not just a diver's tool. And that is still the position they take on the Submariner today. The 2010s were all about innovation and refinement for the Rolex Submariner. Rolex was upgrading materials, movements, and its technology. Reference 16610LV comes to mind, or the Kermit watch in 2003. The green bezel Submariner, released for the 50th anniversary of the Submariner, became the instant collector's favorite, even still much so to this day. Then reference 116610LN and LV came in 2010. Introduction of the Cerachrome bezels, which are virtually scratch-proof and don't fade. This was the huge step that most collectors look for today, when the introduction, and they still chase after the Cerachrome bezels that are still made by Rolex today. And then of course, 114060 from 2012 to 2010 is the last no-date Submariner with a super case design. This was a game changer for Rolex these years. The Rolex introduced the glide lock clasp, which is still used today, and one of my favorite micro adjustment tools on dive watches today. And so you can make these kinds of adjustments without a tool, without going to the AD to have them adjust it for you. This was a huge step, and it was a dream of comfort and fit. So if you want, you can on the go, you can just micro adjust it. It's super easy, and this was a huge achievement for Rolex, is because it's hard to chase after that as another watch brand. You have such an innovation for dive watches, especially, that most dive watches don't have. So this was a game changer for Rolex and for companies as a whole. The latest generation of Submariners continues to refine the classic formula. Some key models and milestones of the current day Submariner is of course reference 126610LN and LV. The most recent Submariners here in the lineup featuring a 41 case, and that's an upgrade from the 40 millimeters before, and an updated caliber 3235 movement with a 70-hour power reserve. This is a powerhouse of a watch. Then of course, reference 124060, this is the 2020 to present, the modern no-date Submariner, keeping it as pure as the original 1953 model. What's next for the Submariner? Who knows? Rolex is rumored to be testing titanium cases and possibly even a Submariner GMT, but only time will tell, as Rolex likes to keep everything cloak and dagger, so we'll never really know. From a humble tool watch in 1953 to a luxury icon in 2025, the Rolex Submariner has evolved without losing its essence. It's worn by explorers, celebrities, and collectors alike, proving that it is a great design, can truly stand the test of time. What's your favorite Submariner reference? Drop a comment below. Like and subscribe for more watch content, because this is just the beginning. And as always, guys, I'll see you in the next video.